Welcome to Alignment. My name is Dasha Kelly Hamilton, and I am the Poet Laureate for the state of Wisconsin. And Alignment is my opportunity to invite neighbors across the state into a conversation that's easy, that's flowing, and that brings them together with a line of poetry. I will share at the end what this line is for them this month, but it's a chance to, again, invite people who may or may not be in the same space, in the same city, and definitely in different conversations, because we're inviting them to interpret a random piece of art, which means because they have individual lives, we're going to have some really rich conversations. So I want to share this month. We're joining two people around this line. If I were less than a mountain, if I were less than a mountain, I don't know, even you non-poets would agree that that is a beautiful assembly of language. And in my opinion, that's all what great poems are. But we're not going to harp too much on the poems right now. Right now, we're going to invite our guests to come to this small screen and give us an idea of what they feel this line means to them. And I'm incredibly excited to welcome our first guest to the screen, Mr. Mandela Barnes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I can't congratulate you enough for the honor that's been bestowed upon you. We are so honored and blessed to have you here in the state of Wisconsin. I'm excited to join you on the screen.
Most excellent. I appreciate those power words. I'm glad to have you here too, especially to be able to have a conversation, right? So everyone would have presumed that they know you, that they know people that they see on the screen, and you have a, kind of important job, but there's so many layers behind every person. So I'm really excited to be able to share that little nugget of all of you with the guests who are certainly fans of your work and your passion for the state. So let's start right there. Tell the good people who you are. Who are you? Where are you from? And where are you right now?
It's so true. We do have so many layers, and being in this position, it is easy for, for people to, you see a side, the political, the policy side, which is a major part of me. But I'm excited to be here to get poetic. So I am Mandela Barnes, Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Wisconsin, and I am in my third year in office now, and time is flying. So this is the fun stuff, right? After this is back to budget.
So where are you from? Tell us your whole life story.
Yes, the whole life story. I am born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, proud product of the city. Have had so many experiences in the city that have shaped and molded me into who I am. If it were not for those experiences that I've had, I wouldn't be able to sit here as Lieutenant Governor today. I think about the neighborhood I grew up in, a neighborhood I spent a lot of my life in, different schools that I attended, friends that I had. Each one in each specific instance having played such a vital role in my own molding, in my own process of maturing as well. I think about some of the bad things, unfortunately, like friends who we've lost to gun violence, friends who've lost the criminal justice system, friends who've been subject to addiction. But also I think about some of the amazing stories. I'm a proud product of not just Milwaukee, but an HBCU, so I have my historically Black shirt on today. And I am repping Alabama A&M University, and I think about the triumphs that we've also seen. And you take the good, you take the bad, and that's how we are formed as people. That's how our decision making is informed as well. So I can imagine being from a different place. The city has given me so much, the state has given me so much, and that's why I'm so proud to serve it and to try to give back as much as I possibly can, especially to our youth that don't always get to see themselves reflected in high levels of government. Like, I want people to know that you didn't have to grow up in a rich family. You didn't have to grow up in a politically connected family to be dreams. We are shifting the paradigm here.
I would agree. And I would say, I would agree with that. And the work that I've been able to do with young people, what's interesting is once upon a time, it was you graduate and you get out of here, you go off into the great beyond. So I feel I've experienced that there are younger leaders like yourself who have committed to, I could leave, but I think this state needs me, needs my talent, needs my perspective. And the more we can open these doors to invite younger perspectives, and I mean younger, anything under 50, we don't always give that mantle of power and respect that we should. So I'm excited for this movement all the way around.
I appreciate it. And the thing is, I did leave, but I came back, right? I came back once I was done with school. And, I think about, like I said, it's less about the city or state needing me. It is what I owe to the place that gave me so much. That is what drives me. That's my purpose right now.
Okay.
Because there's just been so many amazing opportunities just by sheer virtue of being in Milwaukee public schools, right? One of the most challenging high schools in the city and in the state, right? But it is what I was able to get out of that experience, knowing that so many people deserve so much more, and there aren't enough champions that have had that real world experience. People can read, you can read a study all you want to, you can watch the news all you want to, but if you haven't been there, you will never know. And that is the perspective I've always wanted to bring to government. We have to get out of this whole, I have heard, I have seen, because it is all hearsay if you're only reading a study, if you're only reading a report. You don't know what people are actually
the
doing.
Edited news version of the reality, yeah.
Exactly. So it's time to bring reality back to government. It's time to bring reality back to politics.
Bring reality back to government. Thank you. We'd appreciate that. Well, I'm curious to know, I'm excited to know, where did this line of poetry take you? If I were less than a mountain, what does this mean to you?
So it took me so many places, and I think that's sort of what inspired what I talked about in my own upbringing. So, with the peaks and the valleys that we experience in life, I think that if I am ever less than a mountain, then I should always want to get back to that peak. I should always want to get back to that place, not to be above anybody, but to be able to help other people come up and to be able to have a broader perspective. When you're in the valleys, things can seem so dark, things can seem so unsettling, and you don't know if you'll ever get out of it. And then you sort of can get trapped because you don't see anything beyond that valley. But when you get to those mountaintops, when you get to the higher places, mentally, physically, or in reality, you see it all. And it gives you a much more clear picture of which direction you want to go.
Well, tell me this, because valleys are real, right? So a part of being able to have a peak is that there's also a valley.
Yep.
So I'm curious for you, especially with this mantle, with this charge of leadership, of government, of your personal integrity, of how you want to show up in the world. There are going to be some days where the world is just not having its way with you, right? So how do you balance that of wanting to offer people a peak perspective when you personally or professionally are in a valley moment? As leaders, we have to balance how we give ourselves permissions to do both. So how do you manage both your valley moments and your peak aspirations?
Absolutely. And the thing about reality and the thing about peaks and valleys is that they're all natural. This is all natural. These are things that aren't foreign to anybody, and a lot of people are better at hiding it. I personally want to embrace it, right? I want to embrace those challenges, because it is being in those valleys that sort of define who we actually are. It is being in those challenging sets of circumstances that bring out the best or the worst in us, and it's sometimes being at those peaks bring out the absolute worst in people. Right, because you pretend as if those valleys don't exist, and not only do you pretend as if those valleys don't exist for yourself, you pretend as if those valleys don't exist for other people, and you then cast judgment on people who are in those valleys at that point in time. So I think that these peaks and valleys, right? You got me really thinking today, and not just thinking for today, just thinking moving forward, and how I can better be an advocate when assessing these peaks and valleys, not in my own life, but those of other people as well.
Most definitely. I think you said a whole word, not dismissing other people's valleys, because I can't conceive of a valley being that low or shaped in that way because I can't conceive of it doesn't mean that it's not someone else's reality. So there's an empathy there in appreciating, again, how people are sorting through. So I got, just because I'm nosy, so one of your valley repair moments, is there a binge show that you're watching? Are you a jogger? Is there a snack that you recommend? How do you pull yourself? We give the people some information on how to pull ourselves out of a valley moment. A tip from
I am a championship snacker. I eat so many snacks. Yeah, I got big tubs of peanut butter filled pretzels, big tub of animal crackers. But I do run though. I do run, and running helps a lot.
Okay.
I ran a whole lot last year, and I don't know how I would have gotten through last year and all the trials of the last year if I didn't have a chance to get out there and run. I set new records for myself, and it felt good, and I was able to justify eating all the snacks that I eat.
Yeah, I had that same relationship. So you do a couple crunches, that's extra pecans on that Sunday.
That's right.
So, all right, so animal crackers, peanut butter pretzels on the list, and you were a champion snacker, you say? That's a whole other thing for your bio, sir. I'm going to invite our next guest to come and share their feedback about this poem line. But before we're all going to come back and become best friends at the end. But is there anything that you want to share or anything you're excited about right now that you want the good people to know about?
I'm just excited about the future, right? And it speaks to those peaks and valleys, right? Because we are in a valley as a society right now. But I do think that we are moving in the right direction as vaccines become more available, as things start to look a lot brighter for us all. I think that we are headed in the right place, and we're not out of the woods yet, but I am very optimistic about the direction we're headed.
Optimism goes a long way. Don't let anyone tell you anything different, good people. Optimism will take us sometimes just that extra step, and sometimes that one step is all we need to keep going even further. So thank you. I'm going to have you have a seat in our very well-appointed digital green room. And our next guest making their way to the stage, we're welcoming Ms. Kristina Shelton. How are you?
I am doing so well. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. You're having quite the year in spite of it all, aren't we?
Never a dull moment. I thought 2020 was going to be my year of relaxation and getting my life together and just.
Oh, you're cute.
You never know what's going to happen.
My goodness. Well, before we get into all of the things that are happening, just a quick introduction. I love inviting people to be able to tell their story their way. I can certainly read a bio, but that's all the work stuff. You're so much more. So tell the good people, who are you, where are you from, and where are you at right now?
So I currently am the state representative for the 90th Assembly District, which is in Green Bay. And this is my freshman term. I am serving for the first time in the state legislature. And I will tell you, full stop, never thought that this would be a place that would be accessible to me or that I would have the opportunity to serve in this capacity because I'm an educator by trade. I'm a mom. I have 2 young kids. Most of my experience has been in activism and community organizing and education. So I'm used to being on the other side, of policy and lawmaking and throwing bombs at people, right? And forcing the issue. I'm an agitator by trade. Yeah, I come from a long line of agitators, as you know some of my family members. So yeah. I'm in a different seat right now. I'm representing the fantastic people of Green Bay. I get to serve every single day. People ask me why I do this job, and I tell them I honestly like to help people. I like to connect to them. I like to hear their stories. I love to be able to problem solve and figure out ways to change people's lives for the better. And similar to what my good friend Mandela shared before, I'm an eternal optimist. There's a saying, it's called freedom dreaming, right? I mean, the ability to dream about things that people think aren't even possible. And I live in that space every day. I always say, if we set up our own systems and laws, we can change anything. And so it's fantastic to be able to dream big and to be able to serve people every day.
Did you grow into that, or were you that kid always dreaming big? And this is going to connect to, just curious at how this translates as a parent with what your kids are picking up. But first to you, little version of you, Were you always this person?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I really grew into it. You know, my parents were working class in Pittsburgh, and that's where I grew up. My parents had me when they were 20 years old. They finished college. There's pictures of me as a baby living on the college campus with them. So yeah, I mean, so my parents never had the ability to dream. They were too busy putting food on the table and making sure that they could pay our bills. And so I didn't really think about these bigger ideas until I, was an educator in the Philadelphia school district, and I had the opportunity to move around the country and to work in some different fantastic places and to meet other people. But for me, Dasha, if I'm being totally honest, the election of 2016 for me, like for so many, changed my life. I was sort of a participant in politics from the outside looking in. But after that happened, I realized that we need more people sitting at those decision-making tables with, I would say, a broader understanding of the world from a worker's perspective. Mm-hmm. And, like I said earlier, I never thought that this would be possible for someone like me, but I wanted to actively participate. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
How do you, is there a different, how do I phrase this? How do you still honor that inner agitator? Right. So that agitator is now in a different, context, that are rules, parliamentary procedure and chain of command, all that kind of organizational stuff. But you're still an agitator at heart. You professionally, I think you said. So how do you balance, or do you have to balance? I mean, I don't know. How do you reconcile the outside version who's now an inside person?
I mean, I think it's a struggle every day you walk that line, right? And I think you've got to determine what issues you want to take on to make good trouble. If there are issues that aren't worthwhile me being an agitator, then, I think I play a peacekeeping role or a collaborative role. I'm a very collaborative person by nature, but I think in our spaces that we occupy, we have to ask ourselves constantly, where does good trouble need to show up? And how do we create situations where folks are uncomfortable in a way that's constructive and loving and supportive, so that through that discomfort, we can really poke and prod and shift and consider things that we've never seen before, and in a way that feels supportive so that we can work together. And I think that's the way I always try to approach it is, if I'm going to be an agitator, I want to do it with a good faith attempt to figure out how we can make things better, not just for the sake of being a pain in someone's side.
And there's an art in that too. Yeah. I'm going to asking about your kids. So how do they receive this shift? It's a change for them too. Are they agitators yet?
My daughter, Sarah, is 100% an agitator. She has pink hair right now. For her 13th birthday, we took her last week. She wanted pink hair. And I said, yep, that sounds great. And then I reminded her of how great of a parent I am for letting her have pink hair. Of course. Yeah.
Remember this.
So, I think we try to talk to our kids, and my son, Keith, is 10. We try to talk to them about the world around them and how they live in the world and how to be good citizens and how to be, allies and to stand in solidarity with people around them and to understand their privilege and their lane that they exist in, and so with that comes a constant conversation of good trouble, agitation, but also bringing people with you. So, it's so cool to see our young people. They're just not jaded by the world. They don't care. They see what's right and just, and they're ready to go. And I think it's really fun. Yes.
They speak on it. It makes us have to go, oh, I don't know why we've been holding, you're that silence and process. Silence and then process. They offer that as a gift, which depending on the circle, if it happens in the middle of a meeting or if we have our own adulting egos to work through on that. But I'm excited to hear whenever I hear folks in leadership are finding ways, authentic ways to engage youth voice.
100%. And they keep us honest and real. They keep it legit, right? I mean, kids are going to call us out when we're not doing our job or where we need to be honest or we need to change. And I think we need to look to our youth, whether it's our own children or children in our community, to find ways that they can raise their voice and to shape the communities that they live in, because they are a part of it. And we need to engage with them sooner rather than later, because they are the future of the state of Wisconsin and our country.
I agree. And the idea that I know me personally, the idea that our young people are going to have it all together because they've flipped their graduation tassel, or they've gotten, they left the halls of some institution. There's a way that we can engage them sooner in the process, because just adulting is a whole system shop by itself. But I would love to hear how you entered this phantom poem, because you only have one line of it so far. So what did this line mean to you?
When I saw this, I immediately thought of how we typically think of leadership as being a mountain, right? And that we think of leaders as leading from the front and being strong and sort of leading from this immense presence and vision. And I think some of that is true, right? Sometimes you do have to lead from the front and be a mountain. But I think it's important for us to also embrace those places where we don't have to be a mountain, or we shouldn't be a mountain, where we should be water, or we should be, wind, or we should be air, or we should be valleys, because different situations require different approaches to leadership. And, I think especially for women in big roles and big shoes and in decision-making positions, we're expected to really look like the leaders that came before us. And I think women provide a different way of leadership. And there's a level of softness, there's a level of collaboration, and a real building of collective power. And so I am reminded of this, that it is not a negative, that sometimes I need to be less than a mountain, because perhaps, that's the way that my leadership may show up.
I really love that. I did this leadership training years ago. And so as a trainers, we were trained so we can administer this experience to these young college leaders that were coming for this retreat. And it was so tiny, but it's had a huge shift on how I approached team building, right? And one of them was, you have you get your color or your animal, and this is where you fall. I'm the high communicator person. And then you have the idea people, and you have the process people, and you have the logistics folks. And I had this moment, and the language in the training was, everyone on this team, of course, brings value, and everyone on this team processes in a way that brings out their best and keeps them safe. And we've done those type of leadership things about your personality, about diversity, of course, but the diversity of leadership, where I always thought, I call them the Sharpie marker people. I always thought the Sharpie marker person was just there to get on my nerves, and vice versa. But the way that we process what's required for all of us to get to the next step, all of those roles were important, and all of those, and they fit our personalities and how we move through the world. So I'm excited to hear you talk about reimagining, that's not even accurate, allowing for all the ways there are to be leaders. I agree 1,000% on what's expected of women on this cookie cutter of how we're supposed to show up and be a certain way. Or if you know how the strength of collaboration, that is something that we need in leadership as well. So I'm glad that you're bringing that to the table.
Yeah.
Not that other people have it, but that's a priority.
Yeah. I mean, I think to the way that you started the conversation out is that, we have to adjust in our places that we occupy and the lanes that we lead. And it does require a constant reflection of how we're doing that and how we're approaching it. And, I'll give you a good example. I was talking to the Black Caucus chair yesterday, and we were talking about ways that, white folks can show up and support the work of the Black Caucus and some of the legislation that they're advancing. And I said, my job as a white woman is not to perhaps lead from the front here, but know that I 100% have your back, or I will stand next to you. And if I do need to lead from the front, let me know, because I can say things and move in ways that, perhaps you can't. So it does require a conversation and a commitment to justice and to collaboration.
You better use your privilege, Kristina. All of it. All of it. All of it. I am going to ask Mandela to join us on the screen. I would love to just get your feedback on these two different tracks of how you both, you said this different things and the same thing with the same line. So before I ramble and just fangirl over both of you, just want to invite both of you to respond to what you heard today.
Oh, well, all right. Well, no, I truly appreciate, having people like Kristina. Her voice in government is desperately needed. People who understand the nuance of it all. I know so many people, I was in the assembly. I know a lot of people who just go in there kind of bullheaded and sort of foolishly and without respect to their surroundings. And I think that respect for the surroundings is one of the factors that will determine your success, not just in the legislature, but life in general, even in those peaks and valleys, if we can go back to that. But it's the sort of advocacy that she's bringing to the table. I'm very appreciative of it, and the perspective that she brought to this conversation, and working as an agitator. I showed up also as an outside agitator. Our paths were sort of similar to the assembly, and I guess that's it means a whole lot, right? Like it determines not just how you'll be, but the direction that you are going to be headed in, because you are leading with those sort of values. You are respective, or your perspective of everything that's happened before your time and before you got in the legislature. What you were doing that got you to this point is what you're going to do while you're there, and at a higher degree, at a higher level now.
Yeah, no, I love that. And right back at you as well. I mean, what I think is beautiful about the opportunity to serve is to meet other fantastic people who are doing it from the same honest, loving, constructive way that I try to lead. And it's so fun to be able to find friends in difficult spaces. And I think sometimes the legislature is a little difficult to find friends, but it's been so great to get to know you and to be able to lean on each other, because things are difficult now for a lot of folks. And but I do think we have to have joy. We have to find joy in difficult spaces, or it is so grueling. How can you keep on doing this every single day? But to be able to find friends and to be able to laugh and have that space is what will keep us going.
And Kristina, how do you do this every day? So Mandela has already shared with us peanut butter pretzels, jogging, and animal crackers, and some other meditation, I'm sure. But we got the basics. How do you find to refill your reserve to do this work?
Well, Dasha, you're not going to be surprised to know that music is the number one way that I move through my life. So I constantly have music on in my house. I'm constantly listening. If I'm thinking about what I'm going to say or preparing for an event, music allows me to clear my head. But similar to Mandela, I'm a runner. I got in 4 miles this morning because I knew I was going to be doing a ton of media today, and I wanted to be able to get my head on right. But the other thing that's been really fun is my family has been doing HelloFresh, which is the meal delivery service. And it's been so fun because we get the ingredients and we've been all cooking together with the kids and following these different recipes. I feel like we're a little bit like a commercial when we're doing it, because I'm like, the other day I said, wow, this is really fresh. And Keith said, yeah, Mom, it's called HelloFresh. So we've been trying to, bring us all together in the kitchen, listen to music, have a glass of wine, connect, and keep it going.
Most excellent. Well, I want to thank both of you for being mountainous. So it is not lost on on myself or anyone who's taking the time to listen to you share your stories. The task that you've adopted, and you did adopt a task, is enormous. And knowing that you are bringing your whole authentic selves to this experience, right, wrong, and different, and growing and emerging and evolving in the whole way, gives us something, us humans to cheer for. So I thank you for being a part of this conversation. And you are mountainous, and I appreciate that you also value the valleys as well.
Thank you, Dasha. Thank you for everything that you do. Congratulations again on all of your many successes.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to reveal finally the poem that this language comes from. Our two guests shared their perspectives on a piece of language that was extracted out of a larger poem. And now I'm going to let you know where this language comes from. This is a piece, and it has nothing to do with what they talked about, which is what I love about this experience. Alignment. aligns us into human conversations. And this is truly a human scenario. This poem is called The Lost Baby Poem by Lucille Clifton. The time I dropped your almost body down to meet the waters under the city and run one with the sewage to the sea. What did I know about waters rushing back? What did I know about drowning or being drowned? You would have been born into winter in the year of the disconnected gas and no car. We would have made Finn walk over Genesee Hill into the Canada wind to watch you slip like ice into strangers' hands. You would have fallen naked as snow into winter. If you were here, I could tell you these and some other things. If I am ever less than a mountain for your definite brothers and sisters, let the rivers pour over my head. Let the sea take me for a spiller of seas. Let black men call me stranger, always, for your never named sake. National Women's History Month, this is a tip and a nod to all of the women, would-be mothers. We still celebrate you every day. And we celebrate all of you every day. And thank you for being part of this conversation today with Mandela Barnes and Kristina Shelton around alignment. One line of poetry bringing us all together in a human conversation. We'll see you next month. Thank you for being here.